Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. This is Dr. Omi with Essentially Omi Artisan Soaps, Hair and Body Care. Today I'm going to be trying out a 3-color gradient pour soap, but before we get started, please like and subscribe. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Essentially Omi. Thank you. This is the second technique in our special edition series where I try out different designs to pour some of our more popular soap fragrances. So this video and the next one are all about gradient pours. Here are some of my previous gradient pours, and these are done with 2 colors. I wanted to challenge myself by trying to blend 3 colors in a gradient pour. So in this video, I'm sharing with you a gradient pour with a nice fluid thin batter. In the next video, you'll see how thick batter behaves in a gradient pour. This photo is my first attempt at a 3-color gradient, and I love the bright colors, but I also learned that I needed to treat it as 2 separate pours with 4 different pouring pictures in order to get a more pronounced middle color, and you'll see what I mean in a couple of minutes. So the next photo coming up is another attempt at a 3-color gradient, and the batter thickened up, but what ended up happening is the color transition was more chunky, and I really could appreciate it, especially for this color combination. But today's gradient was poured with a nicely behaving thin batter, and I can definitely appreciate the subtle color transition. So let's see how it went. So first I'm going to apologize for this buzzing sound in the background. It's the air pump to my hydroponic system. I grow lettuce, and where I'm filming this voiceover is in the same room where I have my hydroponic system, and I forgot to turn off the air pump. So I'm sorry. I'll remember next time. So I'm starting off here just by adding my sodium hydroxide lye to distilled water with ice cubes in it. So I'm using the heat transfer method here by adding my lye water to some of my hard oils. I do heat some of my hard oils separately, but the coconut oil seems to melt fine using the residual heat from the lye. So I'm just mixing everything up really well, and I'm trying to end up with a temperature of around 105, 107. Because it seems that that's my sort of magic place for working with or trying to have a nice fluid batter. Anything cooler than that saponifies too quickly for me. So this is just me talking to the folks who popped in to watch me make this soap. I made it on Facebook Live. You can find us at Essentially Omi on Facebook. We have a page there. And I was just sniffing the heck out of this soap. This is the Bahama Mama. I love the fragrance so much. But anyway, moving on. I've divided my batter into 4 parts, and I'm deciding how much of each color I want to use. So I'm using, the 3 colors that I'm using are like a white or cream color white, a sage green, or I was kind of going for a sage green, and a dark blue, and I was going for indigo. So the colors I ended up with were sort of a light cream, a nice light green, I don't know if you could call that sage, and also sort of a, not quite an indigo blue, but it was definitely a dark blue. And I found that the trick for me was having 2 pictures of the middle color. So for me, my middle color was green. I wanted green to be the color that I wanted it to go from white to green to blue. So I poured more green, and I divided that into 2 pictures. And this time I actually did go a little heavy-handed on the first couple of pours with the white, because I find that sometimes the first color tends to disappear pretty quickly. And so I'm just going and adding a small amount of the green to the white and stirring it up really well. And as you can see, when the batter is really fluid and liquid, it's really easy for you to achieve a really subtle color transformation there. So this is all super repetitive. I've sped it up so that I don't bore you to tears. But But it's a lot of fun to do. It really, really is a lot of fun to do. If you like this kind of thing, this sort of detail work, and it takes a lot of trial and error too. I don't know if you can see, but the green is slowly becoming more pronounced as I continue to pour. And then I actually poured, once I finished the first pitcher of green, I went ahead and poured the second pitcher of green into, well, yeah, into the first pitcher of green. Sounds crazy. But you know, what happens is you end up running out of the second color that you're adding. And so once I ran out of, once I poured all of the first green out, then I started working with the second pitcher of green. And that's what you see me doing there, just mixing them up real good. And what I wound up doing was I poured a heavy-handed single pour of this new green solution so that I could have a nice pronounced green in the center. That's me adding the second pitcher of green to the first green. And then what I'm doing at this point is I'm going to start adding the blue to the green. So I initially started adding the green to the white, and once I poured all that out, now I'm adding the blue to the green. And so I'm starting out with going a little bit light with the blue, because I do want to sort of gradually bring this green out of the green and into the blue, if that makes any sense. Some mistakes I've made in the past have been just dividing everything up equally, and it sounds like it would make a lot of sense to do, but the reality is when you have a heavy, dark, heavy color, you know, it tends to take over your lighter colors really quickly. So I found that if I want a more transitional kind of pour, then it's best for me to pour use a small amount of the darker color and gradually bring that in. Another tip is to, of course, work with a very fluid batter if you're going for a nice, slow, gradual color change. But then, you know, for me, the key is to be patient and take your time. I mean, I have our French lavender and honey photo that you saw at the beginning of this video was 14 pours. So that was 14 times adding, mixing, and pouring. And that's what, you know, I mean, it just depends on what you're looking for, but that helps me a lot. Just, you know, taking your time and adding a small amount at a time and pouring a small amount at a time. And then I think one of the last real tips is to go from a lighter color to a darker color, because that's a lot easier. When you have a darker color and you want to go from dark to light, say black to white, well, first of all, you're never going to get that pure white on top, because you're always going to have some of that heavy black. Even a small amount of a dark color will significantly darken a lighter color. So that would be just another tip that can help if you're attempting a gradient pour and you can't quite figure out why you can't get the colors that you want. So here I've gone back to real time here. This is the last, I believe the last pour here. It's so messy. I got lye on my arms a couple of times here and it hurt, and I had to like quickly run off and wipe it off. It can be a little bit messy. I don't have those fancy funnel pictures, because when I started out making soap, I was just trying to keep my expenses low. And these little Dollar Tree pictures work just fine. And I just, now that I'm making soap in much, much larger batches, I still haven't gotten out of that, oh, I want to keep my expenses low. So I haven't invested in the pouring pictures, even though they're not that expensive. But they have a really like thin spout, so, you know, like I would have a much cleaner pour. But anyway, this is just for, like, the designs are for fun. The business of it is making sure it's a good product for folks, and that's where we spare no cost in that, spare no expense. So, okay, here we go. I've just added a little bit of a sort of feather swirl, I guess, on top. And that's it. So it's cutting time, although I'm sorry Richard wasn't behaving. My log splitter wasn't, I couldn't get the lighting situation right over, and yeah, it was just too much. So anyway, I'm sorry I can't show you the cutting of this. I know that's one of the most satisfying parts of watching a soap video. Do forgive me. I'll try to make it up to you. But at any rate, this is how it turned out. And I'm really, 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 really happy. Like I have a very clear transition between the 3 colors. And now I'm inspired to try making the soap with 4 colors. What 4 colors should I use for my next gradient soap? I'd like to hear about it. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.